Hi everyone, so I'm back with my secret door, and last week I showed you that I did my arch, so I finished that off. I haven't done my wildflowers yet, but I'll get to them. And then I had cut out my door frame. Okay, so what I've decided to do, my door is going to open that way, and on the back of my little door is going to be a little mouse peeking in. Now I was going to hold this off till later and use this as a prompt, but I've decided to do it this week instead. So there's going to be a sweet little mouse peeking in the door. So we just wanted to explain to you a little bit more, to give you a bit more freedom to play around with ideas. So last week I mentioned that it's okay if you have done a house or a cottage, because it's not going to be one of our prompts. And we just wanted to let you know also that we are not going to do a bird as a prompt, or any bugs or bees or butterflies, things like that are not prompts. So they're things that you might like to add along the way to your garden. So I've added a little mouse today, and it'll be up to you when you want to add them. Now, in saying that, definitely there are times when the prompts would go along nicely with something like a butterfly, a bird, a bug, a bee, that kind of thing. So there are definitely times when those prompts would be appropriate to include, but they don't have to, but they're not their own prompt, if you get what I mean. So you are free to do them when you want to. Okay, so what I'm going to do with my little mouse, I've stitched my mouse already. I can't find my needle. I had a needle here somewhere. Oh, under here. Okay. Oh, hang on. Before I stitch my little guy down, I was going to do some whiskers. Totally forgot about that. So I'm going to use this shiny cotton thread here. Okay. Yeah, so I need to stitch my whiskers down before I stitch my two pieces of fabric together, which is what I was about to do. So let's go to that in a minute. So I just want my little whiskers to be narrow, but you can see them because they're with this sparkly thread. Oh, sometimes this sparkly thread is difficult to use, and the knot's not pulling along. Here we go. All right, that will do. Okay, so just wanted to do the whiskers from where the nose meets the mousie's little face, like the nose meets the nose. And I just wanted to do some little straight whiskers coming out. A little bit awkward with this thread, but once I stitch it all down, it'll be better. It'll look better. This background is just a thin piece of sheet, and it's one that we played around with putting some paint on. And then my other piece that you saw last week I cut out for my door was a thick upholstery. So it should be quite stable once I stitch. I'm having trouble with my words today. Once I stitch my pieces of fabric together, this piece will be more stable because it's a bit floppy. So I'm going to do 3 little whiskers on each side. It's kind of awkward using this thread. It's kind of rough, and it doesn't pull very nicely. So I'm sure I haven't seen Rachel's videos yet. I haven't watched anything this week. But you would have seen that she's gone back home. She went home on Saturday, our time, and so would have arrived maybe Saturday Italian time. Is that right, Rach? Anyway, I haven't spoken to her since she got back. I know Mum has. I haven't. I hope you're well, Rach. I hope your flight went well. I've been busy. It's pretty much the last week of the holidays, although in saying that, I have been working. So we went down to a beach place that our stepsister has about 3 hours south of Sydney on the weekend. Jamie's still down there, but I came home on Monday because I sort of went to work and did a whole heap of stuff. And then I'm going to collect him tomorrow. Tomorrow is what we call Australia Day, where we celebrate Australia. But I mean, I don't really do anything much on Australia Day. It's really just a public holiday, last day of the holidays. Although I did have a day of meetings yesterday for my new job, and I've done a lot of work today, caught up with some friends for lunch, and I still have a lot of work to do, but I've got quite a bit done. I'm feeling okay about going back. And I haven't got as much stitching done this week as I would have liked. I did want to get my wildflowers done. I probably won't do them on video tonight because I have to get up early and go get Jamie, but I might even do some on the weekend, and I'll either show you in next week's video. Yeah, I won't say either. I'll show you in next week's video. And next week is the next prompt as well. So there we go. We've got the little whiskers. Now what I wanted to do is I just wanted to do the cantha stitching. Stitch the pieces of fabric together. And then I might blanket stitch around the door. There's lots of fraying bits, and if I do the blanket stitch, they won't be coming up the whole time. They hopefully will stay down. So my little mousy design is fully stitched in wool. I've never done crewel embroidery before, but it's kind of what I was trying to achieve. So when you do that kind of embroidery, Mum, you can correct me if I'm wrong here because Mum's experience with crewel embroidery, you do basically long and slow stitch. No, not long and slow. I can't speak today. I'm just saying long and short stitch. So they're just straight stitches. You do a long one and a short one, a long one and a short one. You just fill it all in. You just keep going and fill it in. Okay, so I want this to feel like just one piece of fabric. So I am using a crochet cotton, a fairly thin one. I don't know the number. And I am just doing, has it got the number on it? It's a DMC. Oh, cotton perlé. Oh, it's number 12. So it's a thinner one. Normally 8 would be the more common one. Okay, and I'm just doing a small running stitch, which I'm going to do all over the door to hold the two pieces of fabric together to make them one. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing and my little mousy. So I'll jump off film and I will stitch down my door, and then when I've stitched I'm actually going to trim that off after, and then I'll come back and I'll show you. I'll just do blanket stitching around the edge, I think, which will hopefully stop it from continuing to fray. So I'll be back soon. Alright, so my door's all stitched down. It's feeling nice and solid now. I'm going to trim it off around the edge before a blanket stitch. Okay, so when I'm trimming, I've just got to be careful not to trim any of the stitches. I'm going to trim into my little bowl. Okay, just neatening up the edges a bit. It's probably going to fray a little bit more, but when I put the blanket stitch down, it should hold it fairly well in place. Okay. Let's have a look. Ooh, I've cut it a bit short. Only a tiny bit. I think that doesn't matter. You could have a fence a little bit off the ground, right? Oh, actually, you know what I think the reason is not so much that I trimmed, because I really didn't trim much. It's the stitching. It does make it smaller. But that's okay. I'm going to stick that up there, and I might even put some lace across the bottom. All right, so what I was thinking is just using the same thread. I'm going to get a longer one, so I hopefully don't need to rethread it. I'm going to get a bit. All right, so I'm going to blanket stitch around the edge. Okay. So I've got to remember, I know how, I'm just trying to think how I do it. I haven't done it for a while. Let's start down here. What I normally do with my blanket stitch is I'll just thread it through. I'm threading it between the fabric so that my knot will hide in there. There we go. What I normally do is I normally do a stitch over. So just like a overcast stitch on the edge. And then I thread it up through the loop. Hopefully you can see that. And now it's up the top and I'm ready to start my blanket stitch. So you just go down, loop the thread around the needle, and then you pull it tight and the thread runs along the edge. So around the same distance and depth, push it through, loop the thread around the needle, and then I have got a long string. Okay, I'm pulling it firm but not super tight. Okay, try and show you, not that thread. I'll just pull it through and I'll show you one up high. A knot close there, we'll tuck that in. So through, and you wrap the needle, wrap it around the needle, and then pull through. Having a long thread, I am going to get a few knots, so just got to be careful. Luckily they usually come out easily, so just pulling it. And can you see the thread just running along the edge here? So I'm just trying to focus it. See that just on the edge? So putting it in, wrapping the thread around the needle, okay, so I'm going to turn the camera off and I'm just going to blanket stitch around the edge. I'll be back soon. Alright, so all stitched down around the edge, and what I did is I have this bias binding. It's a linen green check, and I just cut 3 small pieces and I have just stitched them down. These are going to be my door hinges. Alright, so I'm going to stitch that down just there. Just going to go up a bit, and I will put the lace there because that will annoy me otherwise. I'm just going to pin it in place for when I'm stitching. Okay, so I'm just doing little running stitches to keep it down, and hopefully it folds. We'll see. Okay, so because it's bias binding, I can fold it up like that and just come through here to hide my knot. And I'm just leaving a little gap there where I'm not going to stitch so that it has space to fold. Hopefully I've left enough space. Okay, so I'm doing really small ones. Making sure that I keep that gap. I feel like this one's a little bit long compared to that one, so I'm going to trim off just a bit. It's a bit better. Again, I'm just stitching with that perlé cotton. I hope it works when you open the door. I hope the door opens. We'll see. Okay, first one stitched. Okay, so I'm just going to pause where I get the second and third one stitched, and then I'll show you. Alright, so my door's all stitched down with my hinges, and I've also stitched a button on this side to be my door handle, and I did one on the opposite side so you don't see the messy stitching. So there's a door handle on each side, and the door flips open nicely. The last thing I'll do, I'm not going to do that tonight because it's getting really late, I will just stitch a little piece of lace in there, and then that won't look so bad on the bottom. It'll be like some little fancy steps. Okay, so next week I'll do some stitching in here, and I'll also I'll be revealing the prompt next week, so my video will be first, and I will work on that next prompt. So I hope you like seeing my little mouse. That was the main part of my video. I didn't show you how I stitched it, but just long and short stitches and French knots for eyes. Satin stitches for the flower, back stitch for the stem, satin stitches for the leaf, and I just couched on a piece of pink twine kind of thing to make the tail. Alright, so thanks for watching this week, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.